Hi, this is Roger Conrad. I'm editor of Utility Forecaster. What I want to talk about today are two major pieces of legislation making their way through Congress and their impact on our utilities. Utilities, of course, are very big companies, they're very visible companies, so they tend to get affected by all kinds of legislation, and particularly the carbon regulation and health care affect utilities very substantially. On the cap and trade issue, this is an issue I've talked about quite a bit in Utility Forecaster over the past few months, also in my weekly utility and income column. And the bottom line is that utilities have been very involved in this debate, and they're getting pretty much what they want. I think the latest development, which California Senator Barbara Boxer, a major opponent of nuclear energy in years past, has come on board and said, well, that's going to be part of this bill. And of course, nuclear energy is a major deal to, particularly to the larger utilities that have come to dominate this industry. Basically, we've had a tremendous consolidation of ownership of nuclear plants in this country to the point where roughly a half dozen control more than 3/4 of the capacity. And that's had the impact of increasing efficiency, dramatically reducing outage times, dramatically increasing safety, and a lot of other, and in the bottom line, dramatically increasing profitability. So the only places new nuclear plants are really viable in this country are on existing sites. So again, the companies that have taken over this industry, really begun running it much more effectively than it ever has been before, are going to be the ones that making the new plants. And this Boxer concession, I think, is pretty much the handwriting on the wall that they're going to get nuclear energy going forward. So that's very good news, again, for a lot of companies that we have in the portfolio, Duke Energy being one, and actually Duke being a primary negotiator of this issue going forward. As for coal, as the CEO of Duke Energy has pointed out, Jim Rogers, there are 50 senators from states where coal comprises more than 50% of the electricity produced. So, in other words, there's a lot of more interest in the Senate in doing things that make it the transition a little easier on coal-burning utilities than there were in the House bill, which I think contained actually some pretty substantial concessions as well. So, how does the cap and trade bill overall affect utilities? Well, it means more investment in things like nuclear power, like renewable energy, which is a tremendous growth business, and as well in clean coal, and not too many penalties on those who are generating coal, energy from coal. So again, I think some very big positives there, and I think the ultimate bill that comes out will be something that's very much to industry's liking. And again, this isn't what you're going to hear on many of the TV networks, because the whole premise is that this is a bad thing for energy and a bad thing for companies, and it will be for some. But for the majority, and particularly for the companies we've chosen in Utility Forecaster, it's very good news. And again, another good reason to stick with our picks, like FPL Group, the major producer of wind and solar in this country, regardless of what happens going forward with the overall market. So I think it's a very positive sign. Now, as for the healthcare issue, that's a little bit more unsettled, but again, I think utilities actually have a lot to win from what's likely to come down. You know, if you look at the debate and you try to cut through some of the emotion and so forth, which can be hard to do, admittedly, you know, I think you probably have to go back to the Civil War when the country was debating whether it should stay together and issues like slavery to see the last time when a congressman got up and called the president a liar during a speech. But in any case, you know, emotions are running pretty hard and heavy here. But I think if you try to cut away you know, that emotion, you'll see that again, the same faction, if you will, in the Congress that has shaped the carbon regulation bill is going to be shaping the health care bill, and that's the blue dog Democrats who are from some of the more conservative districts. And their primary goal, again, is cutting cost out of the system. And that, of course, is, you know, really the root cause of why we have so many uninsured in the country, is the fact that, you know, the costs have risen so high. It's why perhaps businesses will be slower to hire back workers and so going forward. And, you know, healthcare costs are a tremendous drain on utilities' bottom lines, not just even current workers' healthcare costs, but also those that are accrued in the pensions and so forth. So the more the costs go up in the healthcare system, the greater the burden on large companies like utilities. that hire a lot of union workers, that have had very large workforces over time, and to the extent that an upcoming bill reduces those costs, it's going to be very, very positive. I think this is, again, an issue that we're going to have to revisit. I'm going to be presenting information on healthcare costs for utilities and upcoming issues of Utility Forecaster. So some of you will have a chance to get a look and see how what the kind of burden that these costs are on these companies. But again, the objective of the healthcare bill is going to be to bring down some of these costs, and that will be a positive again for these companies. Again, both these pieces of legislation tremendously controversial. There's a lot of ground to be covered before we see pass or fail, or what sort of individual provisions we're going to see out of this. But again, it looks pretty positive. And again, another good reason to stick with these companies that have weathered this recession, that have weathered this credit crunch, and now seem to be strengthening coming out the other side. So that's it for today. I'll look forward to chatting with you next time.